Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today, we are joined by a very good mate of mine, David Goodman. How you doing, David?
Good, Tom. Thanks for having me, mate.
Good, good. Guys, before we get into this episode today, I just want to say if you could please like and subscribe to the channel. We're really putting a lot of effort into getting as much content out to you guys as possible, and we would love to try and grow the channel, and that only happens through you. So please do, if you like this episode, please do show your eagerness, like the episode, subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, David, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. Obviously, last time you were on, I think you said it was 3 years ago, almost to the day.
Yep.
And back then, you had only just started with Duetto, and you were only just entering really the revenue management market, community, all that stuff. What the heck's happened with you over the last 3 years? What's developed? What's changed over with you at Duetto?
Well, yeah, you're right, Tom. I had a look on the calendar the last time that we spoke for E&Ftv, and it was August, I think 17th, 2020. So
wow.
long time. And the world was a very different place then to what it is now, right?
Very true.
And
yeah, very true.
Yeah, it was a scary place at the time, I guess, particularly for me, well, for everybody, but for me being fairly new in role. I was kind of 6 months in at that point. And I actually remember being terrified of speaking to you at that time. And I'm quite happy to admit now I had yellow post notes stuck all around my screen here with things that I wanted
to. You never would have known. You never would have known.
Yeah, as you said, I've done 20 years in hospitality sales pretty much prior to joining Duetto, but moving into hospitality technology and moving into revenue management in particular was a big step for me. And it was a culture shock. It was a real change in the way that, sales is done, how we speak to people. Sure. I was no longer the expert in them. So every time I was speaking to somebody, who had more knowledge about the subject matter than what I did. So those first 6 months were difficult, especially, we went into a global lockdown. The pandemic was in full swing back then as well. So yeah, coming on here and having those yellow post-it notes really helped me to remember what it was that I wanted to say. So yeah, lots has happened in those 3 years. I'm delighted to say I'm still at Duetto. It's the role of a time, Tom. It's an incredible company. We have such a strong brand. We have such a great product, but more importantly, we have really, really great people here, I think, which is testament to the company, testament to our CEO, David Willenberg, as well. And we've just gone strength to strength in the last 3 years. We are now working with over 4,500 hotels. The team has grown from, if I remember correctly, just over 100, 125. When I first joined, we're up over 250 now. We've got people, a big growth in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Key focus is on new markets. So LATAM, Asia Pacific, we're seeing adoption of revenue management really take off in those markets. So we have dedicated teams there now. Continued investment in our core markets, North America, EMEA. So yeah, lots has happened. It certainly feels very different speaking to you now than what it did 3 years ago, I have to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for anybody watching this, and to be fair, mate, you're all over LinkedIn, so you're always doing something. But just for anybody that is watching this, just tell us a bit about what exactly you do, just so they can have some context. Because I know, obviously, director of sales. What's your regions? What's your role?
Yeah, good question, Tom. So I am pretty much purely focused on new business, so acquiring new hotels, new hotel groups to use the Duetto platform. Core territories, UK and Ireland, Nordics, Benelux, and half of Africa. So large territory, lots going on, which is really, really important. But just coming back quickly there, Tom, as well, if I look back to there and kind of what I do now, it's very much about speaking to people. And one of the biggest challenges I had moving into hospitality tech and revenue management was I had a really strong network in corporate sales, in travel management companies. But moving into this one, my network wasn't so big. So one of those big challenges and something that helps me a lot now is really building that network, reaching out to people like you, Tom. Thank you ever so much for your time back then and still continue time. A lot of what I do is talking to people. Ultimately, it's understanding what they do, understanding what challenges they're facing. Is there an opportunity for Duetto to help? Can I put them in touch with one of our existing customers who's gone on that journey already? How can we support? So yes, it's a proactive sales role. Yes, I'm trying to onboard customers onto Duetto, but it's a people role, really, Tom. It's about reaching out, understanding what people are doing, what's happening in your world. Hey, how's your day been? What's going on? Any new challenges? Let's have a chat about it. It's pretty much what I do.
That was actually something that sort of resonated with me. What you said a moment ago was when you sort of first entered the industry, you were sort of, there was a very strong realization of these people know this a lot more than I do. And I remember when you and I first spoke, and one of my sort of things was just have those open conversations. And I said, look, the community is lovely. Like, they really will. If they know that somebody genuinely wants to understand what they do, wants to better the industry and everything else, they will buy into you. But it's the people that will just go for that straight sale. And the thing that I really sort of loved when we first spoke was that's what came across with you. It wasn't this sort of hard sell. It was a lot more relationship based. But a quick question, just because I think it'd be interesting for the audience and actually myself, is what was your experience like when you first started talking to people? Were they quite receptive? Would they sort of like, oh, it's a new guy? Or were they like, you know, get away? Because you had Duetto, then they're obviously a well-established brand. So I imagine that helped.
Absolutely helped. And I think, you know, when I first posted on LinkedIn that I was moving to Duetto, I had people reach out to me and say, oh my God, congratulations, this is amazing. People that were in my network, but I wouldn't say that I spoke to them frequently, you know?
Right.
And so my response was amazing. You guys must be using Duetto. No, we're not, but we'd love to. So I never had that in any role that I'd been in before. And I remember I flew out to San Francisco for my first week. We have a week-long event called Jubilee and Sales Kickoff every year. And I did my first day happened to be on that day. So I flew out to San Francisco and I come back and I went to the Leadership from Chaos conference at the Emirates Stadium, which I think was back end of February 2020. And I was standing there on my Duetto stall, knowing very little about revenue management or about Duetto at that time. And I was really blown away with the amount of people that just wanted to come up and have a chat. Hey, what's going on with Duetto? There's always something new happening. What's happening now? So that was good. However, when you start reaching out to people with sales in your title, there is always an element of skepticism. Always. It doesn't matter what company you work for, who you're reaching out to. There's that immediate feeling of this guy just wants to sell me something. So people were receptive and open to having conversations. And more than a handful of times, and sorry, let me roll that back just a little bit. What I did at the beginning was I tried to reach out to one commercial leader a week to get half an hour in their diary just to talk. And that was always my caveat. If you give me 30 minutes of your time, I promise you, I will not sell to you.
Good.
And most people were very generous with their time, and they allowed me to ask them a lot of questions, and they gave me a lot of, you know, not sensitive information, but information that was very personal to their business at the time. And I would say at least 50% of the time, we got to 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the half hour. And I was like, right, tell me about Duetto. And I was like, I'm honestly not here for that. Like, I'm honestly just here to talk to you. And it allowed me to build credibility within the community, I think, but also really allowed me to upskill myself a lot and build those relationships that I carry with me today. And I'm going to be honest, I don't do it once a week anymore, but I still try and get 30 minutes once a month with somebody I haven't spoken to in a while, just to listen, to ask some questions and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, it's a good way to go about it. And as you say, it's one of those where once you have that 30 minutes and if they say, look, okay, go on then, do your bit. The fact that you stood by it and said, what an opportunity, but no, I'm not going to. That would have sat well with them so much more than you taking the opportunity. And again, undoubtedly, from what you're saying, it's improved your relationships going forward. So the plan worked, I suppose.
And Tom, if I'm honest, a lot of them are now Duetto customers.
Hey!
You get further.
Proof's in the pudding.
Line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, coming back to what I said earlier, it's about having conversations. It's about listening to what people are doing, understanding the challenges that they're facing, having conversations, seeing if you can help them, regardless if that's revenue management or, I used to say to people all the time, hey, I don't know a lot about revenue management, but I did corporate sales and management for 20 years in hotels. What TMCs are you working with? Are you in that location? Have you spoken to this customer? There was an SME when I worked there. Did you speak to these guys? So I was always trying to offer them some value back, even if it wasn't around revenue management.
No, fair. And again, it's just finding those other nuances and connections where you can utilize those. And it is what it is. I suppose in terms of obviously you catching up with people and you talking to the industry specifically within the RMS space, what there's this question that keeps coming up on LinkedIn, on other platforms, and it's what are the hoteliers and commercial leaders, what trends are you seeing in terms of what they're looking for, what they're asking for, or what maybe they're missing from what they've got already?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a little bit like a broken record talking about how the role of the revenue manager has changed. But really, that transition from a revenue manager who is crunching numbers in Excel, looking at top line room revenue only, that's really transitioned. The revenue manager, particularly during the pandemic when they had to do so much, has got more responsibility. They've got more credibility, I think, in that position now as well. And revenue managers, even if they're an on-property revenue manager looking after a single hotel, they're becoming commercial leaders. So they're working with sales more closely. They're working with the events team more closely. They're working with the operational team more closely. So I think the evolution of the revenue manager has led to them asking some very different questions. Because if you're an old school revenue manager looking at top line room revenue, the data's there to do that, right? It's not easy. No revenue management role is easy, but you have the data, you look at what the comp set are doing, you put a rate out into the market.
Yeah.
But where these guys are becoming commercial leaders, they're now looking at, well, actually, how much are the guests generating when they come on property? So yes, the room revenue is important, but what channels are delivering guests that are spending in my spa or that are spending more on F&B revenue? What profitability am I getting out of that? If I take this group, what business am I displacing? So there is definitely a focus on profit management. I think even if I go back 3 years ago, the word profit very rarely come up in the conversations that I was having. The metrics were always RevPAR or ADR growth, or let's look at occupancy. Whereas looking at the bottom line has definitely become more relevant. I think the roles become more strategic. I think it's about understanding the opportunities that are out in the market. How do we get to those? What's our route to market? What's our cost of distribution if we're attracting these guests via these channels? So I think there's a lot that's changed. And I think probably the big talking point at the moment is the road to personalized pricing. People are talking a lot about attribute-based selling. How do we leverage every single part of the inventory of the room? How do we mark that up? But all of that rolls into personalized pricing. So, if Tom or Dave Goodman lands on my website, how can I give them what they want? Not a standard room with breakfast included, but hey, this guy always has late checkout, or he always eats in the restaurant. How can we deliver the experience that he wants on the first click? So as soon as I get there, they know what I want. They're making that recommendation, because all of that is going to lead to increased profitability, but it's going to increase conversion. It's going to make more loyal guests. It's a big topic, Tom. It's a really big topic, and it involves more than just the revenue manager and more than just the revenue management system. This is talking about integrating multiple different pieces of technology, lots and lots of information. But it's I think where the industry will go over the next 3, 4, or 5 years.
It's really interesting. Do you know what? I'd never even thought of, and it's a quite short-sighted of me, but I'd never thought of how the revenue manager has developed and continues to develop would have such a direct correlation with the conversations with the RMSs. Of course, it's obvious when you think about it, but I'd never thought about that before. Because if anything, you guys would be a very strong indicator to understand where revenue managers are going, or probably where their mindset is you know, in this market that we find ourselves post-COVID, you know, after a good performing sort of year going into 2024, what are people looking for? What are people talking about? You guys are a big part to play in that. Do you also, again, I know we didn't speak about this previously, but are you guys ever involved in conversations with where people should be looking, or I know you're looking at this at the moment, but from where we're looking, you should really be looking at this? Or have you got that involvement with your clients? Because again, it sort of feels almost obvious, but it's one of those where I've never asked an RMS that question before.
Yep. Really good question again, Tom. Yes, for me, that's part of that conversation. Again, you know, part of my role in bringing new customers onto Duetto is understanding how they're currently working. Really important.
Yeah.
Understanding what they're trying to achieve, and then matching our functionality to say, hey, this is where you are now. This is where you want to get to. This is how I think we can get you there. But more than that, Tom, as well, it's also about opening up the conversation to lead them to say, hey, have you thought about this? So if I go back 3 years, automation was one of the biggest things that revenue managers wanted, because you know, manually inputting rates into a PMS to be onwardly distributed is a waste of a revenue manager's time. That is a role that can be completely automated. So for us back then, it was, hey, we're going to automate as much of your workflow as we can to give you the time back to focus on the strategy. But now where we're going is, yes, automation is important. Of course it is. Yes, we want to free up your time, but actually we want to be giving you new, exciting data sources that's going to filter into that strategy. So this is not just about giving you time back and then you going and doing the work yourself. What information can we deliver to you to help you with your strategy? What analytics can we provide to you to help you make the best decisions? So absolutely, it's working with the revenue managers and the commercial leaders to understand what they want to do, but B, also say, hey, this is where we think it's going. This is what we think is important. Does that resonate with you? Yes, it does. Okay, how does that play out? What does that look like for you? What data do you need to support that? So I think the conversation is far bigger now than what it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that does actually bring it quite nicely to my next question, which is in terms of, because again, we've got lots of RMSs out there, some massive, some smaller startups. And I think there's an argument for all of them. They've all got their place in the market. But
absolutely,
you know, the question for you really is, what sets Duetto apart from its competitors? Because that's the sort of the biggest question for all RMSs. What makes us different? So I suppose there you go. The gauntlet's been put down. What would you say that sets Duetto apart?
And that's what we have to do, Tom, during every sales process, right? Why Duetto? It's always the question that anybody we're working with is, why Duetto? Why not X, or why not Y? And probably that conversation has become harder in the 3 years that I've been here. Not because we're not evolving. I mean, our developments are crazy, the amount of new features and functionality we're putting out into the market. But exactly as you said, the landscape has become more populated. We have startups, we have simple pricing tools, we have rate shopping tools that can now make rate recommendations. There are so many options for revenue managers. And I think it's about getting the right piece of technology for where you are on your journey. Because you have some really simplistic hotels, you have simplistic revenue strategies that haven't used an RMS before. Then you have really complex resorts that have really complex revenue strategies. It's about matching up functionality with what the potential customer is after. And I think one of the things that sets Duetto apart is the flexibility of the platform, Tom. This is not a one size fits all. And one of the things I'm most proud about in my time at Duetto, some of the customers that we've started working with in my territories are from small hostel companies all the way up to 5-star resorts, boutique hotels, membership brands. The way that people use Duetto can be really customized to the functionality that they need. And a lot of that comes back to open pricing. So open pricing is Duetto's proprietary pricing methodology. When it was launched onto the market 10 years ago, it really revolutionized revenue management. Up until then, everything was done in bar levels, right? You jump from bar 1 to bar 2 to to bar 4. With open pricing, it allows you to independently and dynamically price all of your price points. So our philosophy at Duetto is we want to keep your inventory open, hence the name open pricing, on sale as much as possible. Because when you start putting restrictions in place, you're then limited the amount of business you can bring into your hotel. Now,
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
In a real world scenario, there is no hotel that doesn't, well, there may be some, but there's very few hotels that use no restrictions whatsoever. But by having open pricing as your pricing methodology, it allows you to keep your inventory open and on sale. It allows you to price your segments independently. It allows you to price your channels independently. So that's when you can start factoring, okay, this channel is a higher cost of sale than my direct channel. When I get to certain occupancy, instead of closing that channel out, because then I lose all of that potential customer base, I'm just going to increase the rate of that channel. So it's more expensive for people to buy that channel. But if they do, it has an impact on the bottom line that is the same as if I took that piece of business via the direct channel. So you then become channel agnostic because your bottom line is the same wherever you take that business from. So open pricing is definitely a key differentiator for us even now. Our ability to control the level of automation that we offer. So there's not autopilot on or autopilot off with Duetto. You can have autopilot coming on at 6 p.m. at night and going off again at 9 a.m. in the morning when the revenue manager is not there. You can automate certain booking windows. So you can say, hey, 60% of my pickup comes in the last 10 days. I want to take back manual control there. This is when me as a revenue manager, I have the biggest impact on my business. But from 11 days out, I just don't have time to look at them. So Duetto, please automate everything for me there. So lots. But if I had to boil it all down into one thing, Tom, it's really, really easy to talk about functionality and to talk about products. The biggest differentiator between Duetto and any other RMS, in my opinion, is the people. It's the way that we work with our customers. It's our incredible support team. It's our customer success team who are not there just to say, answer questions or this isn't working. Can you do this? They work with them on their strategy. They help them with what's going on in the market. They give feedback on how they're using the system, how we believe they should be using the system. And all of that sort of transcends. We have a 99% renewal rate, Tom. I think in any business, that is world class.
Yeah, that's absolutely, mate. Absolutely. That's definitely something worth shouting about. And again, that is reflected, I suppose. Yes, it'll always be down to the tech functionality, but if you buy from people, right? So 100%. It certainly reflects in what you're saying for sure.
And Tom, one of the biggest sales levers I have as a salesperson here is customer references, because most people are pretty skeptical of the sales guy. Even if you try and be as honest as you possibly can, most people still say, hey, but there's something in it for them. He's trying to sell me a product. He's telling me what I want to hear. One of the most powerful tools that we have is say, hey, why don't you speak to X customer or Y customer? They've recently gone through the onboarding process with Duetto. Ask them to see what it's like. Or these customers have been with us for 5 years. Why don't you ask them why they're still with Duetto now? And being able to offer customer references to potential new customers is just so powerful.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah. And it does speak for themselves because, again, word of mouth and getting that buy-in from another commercial leader or another operational leader, in fact, as well, is going to speak volumes. So fair play. In terms of Duetto then, so what's to come? What's exciting? What developments are happening? What's going on over the next 12 to 18 months, mate? Because I know there's always something going on at Duetto.
There is always something happening at Duetto, and it's almost like we set this up at this time for a reason, but it isn't. It's just fortuitous. We have our biggest product launch, certainly in the last 5 years, coming within the next 6 to 8 weeks. It's the first time we've launched a new product, like an actual project, a product. So not a new feature or not a new piece of functionality. We launched Duetto Advance in the back end of October, and it's very much a product from the conversations we've had with revenue managers. So back to your question earlier, when you have that conversation, do you listen to them? Do you try and guide them? So one of the things that we've seen is what additional data sources can we bring into the platform that will influence our algorithm to give people a better understanding of demand in their hotel and in their market, and ultimately more accurate pricing to convert more business. So we signed an exclusive agreement with Expedia within the past 12 months. We will be the first RMS that will be bringing in live Expedia data. So that's rate shopping data down to a very granular level, looking at room type, pricing, looking at what rates they have out in the market. But more importantly than that, in my opinion, Tom, we will be bringing in Expedia market data. So Expedia will be giving us a market forecast to understand what volume of business is coming into the market, what that means for this hotel. And we'll also be pairing that with data from a company called Predict HQ. So Predict HQ are a live event company. They provide event data in real time into our platform. So events has always been a big challenge for revenue managers, because you have an old-fashioned event calendar. You have to understand if that has a positive or negative effect on your hotel. Then you have to block dates in your RMS to say, hey, something outside of the ordinary has happened here. You know, maybe it's Christmas, or maybe it's WTM, or whatever it may be. With Predict HQ, they will be pushing those events into our platform. The revenue manager can then accept or decline the event to say, yes, this does have an impact on my hotel. No, it doesn't. But what it will also be doing is factoring into our forecast to say, hey, this is going to have a positive impact on demand or a negative impact on demand. And by bringing event data and Expedia market data without already existing data into the platform, that will then lead us on to dynamic optimization. Now, dynamic optimization is something that a lot of RMSs and pricing tools have spoken about over the last 2 to 3 years, the ability to optimize in real time. But in our opinion, you have to have the right data sets to enable that to happen. It has to be structured in a way, and we're getting a little bit technical here, but the volume of messages doesn't overload your onward distribution systems. Because if you imagine you are optimizing every 30 minutes for 365 days for every rate plan, every room type you have, that is a huge volume of messages. And when it hits your channel manager, your CRS, they just get queued. So what happens is the RMS is optimizing all of the time, but the messages are then not pushed out. So whilst the optimizations are happening, the rate changes in the market are not following on from that. We've worked really hard over the past 12 months to find a way that we can shrink down the volume of messages. So if we are optimizing every 30 minutes or even quicker, those rates are still pushed to market at the same speed as well. And this is all coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks, Tom. So it's super exciting. To be working with a company like Expedia and be bringing their data into our platform is something really, really exciting for us.
Amazing. And just out of interest, from our own selfish reasons, is this the first time it's been spoken about on any sort of platform or anything, or have you already spoken about it elsewhere?
No, we did a soft launch of it at ITB, but we were very restrictive with the information that we put out there. So we loosely spoken about it to some customers that we have, but we've not actively spoken about it. So this is a little bit of an E&Ftv exclusive. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, if we were going to say to anybody that wanted to find out more, then, so if somebody's watching at this stage, they are a commercial leader, or they work in revenue in a single or multi-property environment, and they wanted to find out more, could they contact you? Could they sort of find out a little bit more from what's coming, or do they need to wait until October to find out what's happening?
So no, they can absolutely contact me or contact anybody at Duetto to find out what's happening. I think the exciting part for us is this is going to be an evolution of this product, because we're going to be bringing this data in. We're going to be looking at dynamic optimization, and it's going to be displayed in something that we call Command Center, which is going to be the central hub of Duetto. All of our data is going to be populated there. It's going to be displayed very visually for everybody to see, and then you can take action from that page. But we know, the same as any product launch, the way we launch this product will definitely not be the final iteration. So I would encourage commercial leaders to reach out to me to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or if you're using that data, could we do that with it? Because for us, we always listen to customers, potential customers, to see what they want to do, because every hotel and every hotel group works slightly differently. Now, we can't always do everything we're asked of, but what we can do is say, hey, there's a common theme here. This type of hotel is a resort or is a city center hotel. A lot of them work in this way and would like to see the data displayed like this, or would like to see it have an impact on the algorithm like this. that's when we can go into testing, and that's when we put our kind of beta models to some of our customers to try them out. Hey guys, do you want to try this out? Yeah, we'll try that out one property. Let's see how it works. Because for us, real life feedback is so important, because our product team and our analytics team can sit there and say, hey, this is what it does. This is how it's going to work. But when you put it out in a real life scenario, that's when we get the best feedback.
Absolutely. And again, like any launch, as you say, it's going to be developmental. There'll be things that need to be tweaked, things that need to be changed, and that'll come probably from feedback, as you say, from your core clients that are already using it, and then to enhance, you know, that client relationship with new clients as well. I'd say for anybody that's got this far into this, then just a quick one. I'll obviously tag David in this, but if you want to find out more about Duetto Advanced, was that right? Yeah, Duetto Advanced. Get in touch with David or contact Duetto directly. I know that they would love to hear from anyone that is looking to obviously work with Duetto, or at least find out more about this brand new product that is coming, depending on when you're watching this episode, of course, because you might be watching it before the launch or of course afterwards. So either way, I know David would love to have a conversation with you, so please do just drop him a message. He's always up for a conversation, and it really does sound like, mate, a really exciting new product. Like, incredible. And the partnership with Expedia as well, you don't hear that all that often. So fair play to you and fair play to the team at Duetto. I imagine there's been a lot of hard work going into this, so absolutely congratulations to all of you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, super exciting. And I think the exciting part is delivering this to the customer, right? As we spoke about earlier, it's these guys are craving more and better data sources. So to be able to deliver something like this, and the most important part, Tom, in our mind, is that this is live data. It's the one thing that we are pretty much non-negotiable on. If we're bringing data into our platform, it needs to be live, because 48-hour-old data, 72-hour-old data doesn't cut it anymore. If you go back 3, 4, 5 years, it was okay. But the market is so fast moving, so dynamic now. If you're working with out-of-date data, the rates you have out in the market are out of date. So that's the exciting part, bringing all this data in a live environment, and then enabling our customers to make the best decisions for their hotels.
Fantastic. Well, just for anybody that thinks that was pre-planned, it bloody wasn't. I didn't know anything about Duetto Advanced. so fantastic. David, I know how incredibly busy you are, mate. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule again. It's so good. Honestly, it is so good to see how well things have gone. Because as I say, the last time you were on, you were brand new to the industry, and we were sort of introducing you to everybody. And now, like, mate, you're smashing it, like absolutely smashing it. So fair play to you. It's great to have Duetto back on the channel. So yeah, thanks so much for coming back on, mate.
Tom, my pleasure. Listen, all the support over the last 3.5 years has been great. So I'm always happy to jump on this and help out.
Mate, and we'll get you back on in about another 8 to 12 months, maybe. Let's not leave it 3 years and see where things are going with Duetto Advanced and obviously you and everything else. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. As I said at the start, if you do like the episode, please do like, subscribe, comment, and get in touch with David if you want to find out about more about the Duetto Advanced product coming soon. So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.